Good morning, Earthlings. Well, we've made it to the end of the week. It is Friday. The weekend is upon us, but we still have the day to go yet. So before we jump ahead of ourselves, let's get into our cosmic weather for today, starting over at spaceweather.com. Solar wind is currently at 467.1 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is at a 1, which is quiet. In the next 24 hours, it could get as high as a 2. Nothing in the way of coronal holes that we need to be overly concerned about. And flare possibility is the same as the other day. M-class flare is at 10%. X-class flare only about a 1% chance. Geomagnetic storm activity, we don't really have anything going on. 5% chance active in the mid-latitudes. In the high latitudes, it could get a minor or even active 15%, but nothing really too much more than that. Moving from there to our astrology for today. Right here, we're on the 19th. The conscious sign, the sun sign, is the same. Next week things will change over. But for right now, the conscious mind is Libra, air, finding an expression. Remember, Libra is related to the tarot card of justice, which is about karmic balance. So if there seems to be some sort of karmic issues that you're working out, some balancing that's going on, well, that's the time and the season that we are in astrologically. Now underneath, we have the void of course moon, which means we're between two signs again, between the fire sign and between this next one here, Capricorn, which is an earth sign. So fire is ideas, creativity, earth, practicality. So we've got in between right there, going between these ideas and the practicality underneath, the conscious mind, trying to take those ideas and find a way to really make them work. You know, maybe even apply a different set of discipline to ourselves, or rules or programs, something to really make our ideas come forward and work the way we want them to work. So that's what's going on unconsciously. So again, air on the conscious mind, unconscious, transitioning between fire and earth. Now the moon phase itself is on the way up. It's a waxing moon. It's 23% of the way full. About another week or so before it gets up to the full moon. And on the Mayan Oracle, we're at a one-tone day, beginning of a new wave spell. This is the wave spell of the yellow seed. The wave spell of the seed. The phrase for today is I unify in order to target attracting awareness. I seal the input of flowering with the magnetic tone of purpose. I am guided by my own power double. Then on the Gregorian calendar, it is Friday, October 19th, 2012. So there you go. That's the energy we're dealing with for today. New opportunities, new beginnings, using our expression around us to help bring our ideas, and ultimately finding a practical way to express them. That's what our subconscious is looking to do. Okay, following along with the theme of prophecy of 2012, more specifically geared towards December 21st, because we are only 63 days away. I have one more piece I'm going to play. This is about the Mayan calendar. This is the second part to what we heard yesterday. Here we go.
Everything's going faster. We travel faster, we communicate faster, we make things faster, and our transactions are faster. With each advance, human capability increases, and the next second, so do our expectations. We now have the capacity to understand in minutes what it took our ancestors weeks to comprehend. Lowell Cattler, a noted professor at New Mexico University, says that the rate of change of the United States is such that there is new high technology produced in the marketplace every 17 seconds. Here's the rub, though. The one thing that hasn't changed is the speed of our thinking. Let me illustrate. Firstly, the speed at which we process pictures is limited. Since the 1920s, films have always been made with 24 frames a second because anything slower would flicker. Now here's an experiment for you. Move your hand in front of your eyes slowly. Do you notice that it flickers? Now speed it up until it blurs. What about the speed of conscious thought? Conscious awareness comes in flashes. It's not a continuous process. Sir Roger Penrose, an eminent mathematician and physicist, measured that the average person receives about 40 conscious moments per second. Now, high-performing athletes work to a faster level. For example, Joe Namath shared that when he was at a peak moment during the game, everything seemed to slow down. And when he was scoring a touchdown and there were literally thousands of people applauding, he saw everything in slow motion and total silence. There was no sound. And the conclusion is he might have gone from, say, 40 conscious moments a second to 100 at that moment. So the situation we now have is that computers process millions of transactions per second, social media communications are nearly instantaneous, but our rational minds only operate at 40 thoughts per second. Today, it's not uncommon for a corporate executive to receive 300 emails per day, and when you are bombarded with more messages and more information than you can possibly respond to, it can get very stressful. In fact, email has been identified as one of the top 10 causes of stress in the workplace, and is having a serious impact on society. Not surprisingly, the rate of increase of stress in the world, which is tracked by the World Health Organization, took a distinct leap after 1999. So, processing speed of the rational mind is 40 flashes a second, and when acceleration of daily events with their expected demands are faster than our rational minds can process, the result is increasing stress, which easily leads to fearful thinking. The good news is that this pattern of thinking can be broken. There's growing experimental evidence that intuition can access needed information at extraordinary speeds, virtually instantaneous. Anecdotally, there are many stories of people who attribute either their success or their avoidance of disaster to an intuitive insight. The intuitive mind can easily keep up with the speed of change and guide us to inspired thinking. An inspiring illustration of the speed of intuition is presented by American author and mystic Carolyn Mace in this brief video clip. Intuition at the speed of the soul. It has a wonderful ring to it.
Personality is your soul or your spirit operating at the speed of time. The consciousness of your spirit in slow motion, operating at the speed of time. So if you can't take the speed of your soul, which is the speed of intuition, you have to have it at the speed of personality, which is the speed of physical time.
Intuition at the speed of the soul. It has a wonderful ring to it. So if accessing intuition is the key to intelligent action in times of tumultuous change, how do we cultivate it? And it's easier than you may think. Scientists have now established that intuition is actually initiated by the heart rather than the brain. Over the last 20 years, there's been a lot of exciting research into this by the Institute of Heart Math. While we all know that our heartbeat increases when we're tense, the breakthrough for heart math was that the variability between each individual heartbeat changed significantly under tension, and this discordant information was being sent to the brain, which dramatically altered a person's mood. For example, with a person feeling frustration, a graph of the variability between the heartbeats is erratic and sends distorted information to the brain, like a harsh discordant sound. However, variability measurements taken with great healers, Dalai Lama monks and inspirational leaders all produced a smooth, coherent pattern, like a peaceful, harmonious sound. Although there are many anecdotal records demonstrating the speed of intuition, many have difficulty believing in the validity of these claims. So next I will describe just one example of a truly extraordinary scientific experiment conducted by HeartMath. The experiment involved 26 participants who viewed a series of pictures presented at random. On pressing a button, a picture appeared on the screen, but only after a delay of 6 seconds, and it lasted for 3 seconds before the screen went blank. Each participant viewed 90 different pictures, which could be either calm nature scenes or pictures that aroused emotional feelings. With this combination, there were over 2,000 trials, making it a very rigorous experiment. So walking through the procedure, the participant presses the button and a random picture appears 6 seconds later. In this case, it's a calm, peaceful picture. The scientists are measuring the change in heart rate variability after the button is pressed. Might help using sound as an analogy. Before the button is pressed, the sound might be like this. As the variability goes negative, the sound distorts with some lower frequencies. And if the variation goes positive, the sound distorts with some higher frequencies. So the graph of the average change in variability for all the calm trials came out as shown, and this became the reference line. However, when emotional pictures were shown, the average graph of the variability went way down from the reference graph. In fact, it started deviating from the reference graph 4.5 seconds before the picture appeared on the screen. Now, because these pictures are based on an average of over 2,000 trials, the odds of this happening by chance alone is over 1,000 to 1. This experiment alone is a pretty compelling illustration that we humans have the capability of tapping into the power of our heart-based intuition to guide our decisions. In the days ahead, how you feel about a decision is going to be far more critical than any logical analysis coming from the rational mind, and we need to do it on a daily basis. This difference is best expressed by Dr. Roland McCratty of HeartMath.
And what we found was that when we're feeling positive emotions, like we're really appreciating the sunset, or really feeling love or compassion or care for someone, that the heart beats out a very different message.
A peaceful message which gives us easy access to intuition. So here we have three conclusions. Positive thoughts evoke peaceful feelings, and we can cultivate these emotions in the heart. A peaceful state invites intuitive insights, which are more relevant to cope with the acceleration of events. Intuitive insights are virtually instantaneous and operate at the speed of events. So I leave you with this thought. The evolution reflected by the Mayan calendar heralds mankind's awakening to enlightened consciousness and how compassionate hearts can lead to a world of peace and harmony.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right, Dirk, thank you very much. This is the UFO News for today. I've got 5 stories for us. First story says, UFO frightens family in Aberdeen, confuses experts. A family in Aberdeen was terrified as UFO invaded the space above their home for almost 5 hours. This UFO sighting is unusual for many reasons. There are pictures, decent video, multiple witnesses that seem credible, and the UFO remained in one place for such a long time. The UFO was certainly not static in the sky, but it did essentially remain in the same area. Right now, there is no easy explanation as to what this family experienced and saw last Saturday night. It says, Morag Ritchie, 50, awoke suddenly at 2 a.m. on Saturday to see strange lights only a few hundred yards from a royal property near Fresno, Aberdeen. The grandmother saw the lights circulating in the distance. She woke her family to witness the event. She said, I saw lights in the sky and I thought it was a strange-looking star. When I looked closer, I realized they were moving in a spinning motion, and then occasionally something shot off to the side. I kept going back to my bed, but I was so unsettled that I continued to wake up. In the video below, taken by her daughter's fiancé, Scott Buller, you can clearly see a row of flickering lights hovering in the sky above the home. Eventually, one of the lights moved off to the far right and disappeared. I was quite apprehensive about it. I'm standing there looking at it and thinking, is it watching me? So I went around the house telling everyone they all have come have a look. Miss Ritchie described seeing a circular object hovering and spinning above her home, unlike anything she'd ever seen before. When Scott looked at it, he was shocked and he didn't think it was real. My husband is a fisherman and he spent hours looking up at the night sky, so he was quite skeptical when I told him, but he even admitted it was strange when he saw them. The group eventually summoned the courage to go outside for a better look at the UFO that had been invading the space above their home for almost 5 hours. Ritchie is a self-proclaimed lobbyist and fishing quotas. Okay, anyway, here we go. So, this is what they saw above their home. Now, I want to go back to the title of this article here. The article says, UFO frightens family in Aberdeen. The question I have to ask you is, did a UFO really frighten this family? Or is the more appropriate way to look at it, a family saw a UFO and became frightened? Because it didn't seem that there was anything that needed or signified that the UFO was trying to frighten the family. They were just there. And yet the term invaded the space over their home also is a term that kind of leads you into an idea. I don't know that this alien spaceship invaded anything. I think that it was just there, and they saw it, and they became frightened because they didn't know how to explain something that they didn't know what it was. So it's important the way we look at these sort of events and realize what's going on and what isn't. Again, did the UFO try to frighten the family, or was it the other way? Family saw and was frightened. Anyway, I've made my point. Moving on. Next one here. This is an eyewitness. Says a glowing object in the sky is not a meteor. This was caught on the TV news October 17th. There's our object. See the trail of light coming off of it. Now, is that a meteor? It's a long, oblong meteor if that's the case. Okay. Doesn't really look like a meteor. It looks like something else. In the video below, you can hear one but not three witnesses of different locations in California all say that what they saw wasn't a meteor. They say the object was way too slow to be a meteor, that it sometimes did not have a tail. They also say the object was flying across the sky like a jet, not falling like a meteor would. Not to mention, a meteor would have been pulled by gravity to bend downward, but this object never pointed downward. The above photo was one of the first to looks at the UFO, and here we see an object at the front of the glowing tail. The object is a UFO, not a meteor. The meteor is manipulated by the U.S. government, and they are now using the word meteor to get you to shrug off this sighting and think nothing of it. Did they succeed? Is a UFO? It's a UFO, end of story. All right, let's listen to what this guy has to say.
Right now, scientists are working to figure out what that big ball of fire was that soared over Northern California tonight, causing a loud boom. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Johnson.
And I'm Dan Ashley. It was seen from Monterey to Mendocino and east to Sacramento. ABC 7 News reporter Alan Wong is live at the Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland tonight with the story. Alan.
Yeah, and there were several astronomers here tonight hosting an event, but they were so busy speaking to the guests that they missed the excitement. There were, however, plenty of people who saw it and some who took pictures. These are some photos taken by a very alert guy named Bob Marino. He says he was in Santa Rosa watching a girls' varsity soccer game at Cardinal Newman High School when he saw this thing streak across the sky at a low altitude, followed by a loud boom. We spoke to several people who saw it in Oakland's Jack London Square around 7:45 tonight. We'll hear from them, followed by an astronomer here at the Chabot Space and Science Center who tells us what it really was.
I looked over, saw like a crescent-shaped object, like reddish orange in color. But as it went away, it started kind of getting larger. It's kind of expanding.
I can't really describe exactly what I seen, but it was something abnormal.
How long did it last?
I just seen 2 seconds.
I'm not sure if it was a meteor or not, because a meteor drops right out of the sky. This thing was going sideways across the sky. So to say it was a meteor, I don't believe that.
Basically, you saw a small car-sized piece of rock and metal from the asteroid belt crash through the layers of Earth's atmosphere, ionizing and setting the air on fire in its wake. Little pieces of it, as it broke up, probably crashed in the hills around Martinez, north of here. And you might have even heard a sonic boom as it crashed through the atmosphere at speeds of over the speed of sound.
So it was a meteor that probably crashed into the hills around Martinez. Astronomers say this is not rare. In fact, 15,000 pounds of space material crashes into the Earth every year. It's just not often that it happens over a densely populated area. They say it came into the atmosphere doing about 25,000 miles per hour, but slowed down and hit at about 300 miles per hour. So again, it was a meteor that lit up the sky tonight and even caused a sonic boom. I'm Alan Wong reporting live from the Chabot Space and Science Center in Oakland, ABC 7 News.
All right, Alan, thank you. And as you'd expect, the fireball is trending on Twitter tonight with scores of people saying they witnessed the spectacle. It was a picture-perfect night for a meteor sighting. ABC 7 meteorologist Sandy Patel is here with more for us. Sandy.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along from that. So the question I want to ask you again, does that look like a meteor? I mean, from this picture, this looks like it's going up, okay? Unless somehow I'm mistaken on my directions between up and down, this thing looks like it's going upward. And I don't know, is a meteor shoot upward? I don't know. I'm not certain if that's a meteor, but anyway, the link's available so you can check it out, see what you think. All right? Moving right along. Next one here, we have a triangle above Fresno. There was a sighting above Fresno a couple days ago. Now here's another one. Flying object from east to north, southeast from north. Camera was a Sony TRV 103. All right, moving pretty quick there. Okay. Very interesting. You see multiple objects in there, and this one just seems to be sitting here, and others are zipping around it. So the question is, what is that? Links available for you to check it out, see what you think. Next one, we're going to move over to Texas. It says a very different type of UFO in Taylor, Texas, size of football field and rectangular. All right, here's the report. It was filed with MUFON. A rectangular UFO was sighted by me near Hutto, Texas. It was very large and perfectly rectangular, grayish, black in color, hovering below the storm clouds like a huge banner. I was driving towards Taylor, Texas on Highway 79 going east. It was the size of a football field, in my opinion. Moving as fast as I was, driving at 55 miles per hour going parallel to it, I watched it for almost 5 minutes in disbelief. Then I took action and took the next road to intersect with it, and it just disappeared. This is the second UFO I've seen in my lifetime. The other was in '73, and it was hovering over the Decker Lake power plant near Austin, Texas. What is seeing is it going zigzag across the sky and stopping for 5 minutes to recharge. Then off it went in the blink of an eye and was gone. My wife witnessed it with me too and went to get a camera, and it was gone. All right, so very interesting. How'd you like to look up and see a large saucer like that? Well, I guess that wouldn't be a saucer. That's more like a square. All right, not more like, it is a square, rectangle. Okay, moving right along. One more story. Up on Mars, we're hearing all the stories of what's going on Mars and the rover and so on and so forth. Well, here we have it says race to find alien life on Mars goes on. Genome hunters go after Martian DNA. So J. Craig Venter may have just started a race to discover alien life on the red planet. Two high-profile entrepreneurs say they want to put a DNA sequencing machine on the surface of Mars in a bid to prove the existence of extraterrestrial life. In what could become a race for the first extraterrestrial genome, researcher J. Craig Venter said Tuesday that his Maryland Academic Institute and company Synthetic Genomics would develop a machine capable of sequencing and beaming back DNA data from Mars. Separately, Jonathan Rosberg, founder of Torrent, a DNA sequencing company, is collaborating on an effort to adapt his company's personal genome machine for Martian conditions. I want to make sure an Torrent goes to Mars, Rosberg told Technology Review. Although neither team as yet has a berth on a Mars rocket, their plans reflect the belief that the simplest way to prove there is life on Mars is to send a DNA sequencing machine to the planet. All right, well, you can see there's a lot more to this article. So check it out. See what you think. What do you think? Is NASA just going to say, sure, put a DNA sequencing machine? Because we want Earthlings to know if there's life on Mars. Because they're so forthcoming on letting us know about life. Of course they want to let us know. And of course they're going to want to have a DNA machine on there. Because they're just itching to have the general public know what's really going on Mars, right? We'll see how this one unfolds. Anyway, that's our UFO news for today. I'll be back.
What if our government was responsible for some of the greatest crimes against this nation? Would you really want to know? These are big questions, but these questions deserve answers. It's time to demand the truth.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of them.
9/11 was an inside job. Kennedy was killed by the CIA. Jimmy Carter saw UFO. Answers to secrets you need to know. So wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. The evidence is overwhelming. Step past your fear, take a look. Illuminati lies keep growing, but they're illusion from your eyes. And wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What would our founding fathers say if they were alive today? Must be turning in their graves. Redcoats are coming, Big Brother's watching. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. What if by land and two if by sea? And I on the opposite shore will be ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm. Whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. When a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Patriots arise. It's time to demand the truth.
All right. Continuing on. So you heard about the Federal Reserve bombing plot that occurred. Well, I want you to hear this piece here. It says, new Federal Reserve terror plot, another hoax. Here we go.
This is Brother Peter Diamond, VaticanCatholic.com. On Fox News right now, there's a major headline declaring that plot to attack Federal Reserve foiled. As we've pointed out in the past, when you hear about these so-called plots that they foil, in almost every case, the reason they foiled it is because FBI or government agents were the ones running the plot. They concocted the plan, they organized the plot, they supplied the materials that were supposedly going to be used in the plot. They are called agent provocateur events. And as I looked at this article, I expected to see the same thing, that a government agent was actually running the whole thing. And what do you know? It says in the article that, quote, the 21-year-old suspect attempted to detonate what he thought was a 1,000-pound bomb in front of the Fed building on Liberty Street, but the device was a fake supplied to him by undercover FBI agents who had been tracking his activity. There you go. It was an agent provocateur event. As it is in almost every single case, FBI agents were the ones running it. They supplied the materials. It was a fake. They were tracking him the whole time. They simply got someone who was evil and gullible enough to go along with their plan. They also say that the supposed explosives posed no threat to the public. That's not a surprise, because it's not about a real threat. It's about theater to convince the people that there are threats when in fact almost the entire war on terror is a hoax. And the target that they chose for this so-called plot was also strategic. They picked the Federal Reserve building in New York City. That was a calculated attempt to portray opponents of the private banking cartel, which really runs this country, known as the Federal Reserve, as possibly terrorists, lawless criminals. So don't believe the hype, don't believe the propaganda, and when you hear about these so-called plots, look at the article, and you will see in almost every case that it's run by government officials.
All right, very good. So he makes a really good point in there. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've seen the news stories and I hear there was a plot and then it was foiled, but you never hear anything more about that. And every single time, I know that when I hear they foiled the plot, it's because there really wasn't a plot. Because you got these alphabet agencies out there, FBI, CIA, NSA, and others that we don't know about because they keep themselves really covert. These agencies are out there and they are trying to terrorize the public. The real terrorists are not overseas. The real terrorists, unfortunately, are in the very government that runs this country. They are the secret agencies. Why else would the FBI go out and provide bombs or fake bombs to somebody so they could go blow up the Federal Reserve? Why are they doing this? Remember up in Seattle, when they did a similar thing there, they provided bombs to somebody else, and then we keep hearing this. Why is the FBI providing bombs to those who they believe are going to go and blow stuff up? That makes no sense. Unless, of course, the FBI is in on the game, and we know that they are. The CIA, same thing. When we hear CIA, we know by now that the CIA and the Al-Qaeda are the same thing. So when we hear all the nonsense stories about what's going on, all we have to do is put two and two together and the picture comes in place. You see, these alphabet agencies, they are all over the world. The CIA, they are really much more involved than you know. And folks, you're just getting fooled out there if you believe in every single thing the news tells you. Here's another one. Now, the other day, I was flipping through Fox, and I heard Fox give their third reason. The first story we told you wasn't true, and then we told you another time, and oops, we were wrong again, but this is really what happened, they say. Well, do you believe them? When they come out and they tell their stories and after 3 times they're telling you a difference, do you really believe them? Do they have any credibility left with you? Because they don't with me. When they keep changing their stories, when I turn on the news and I watch the news and I see that they're doing a story about Egypt, but they're showing graphics of Greece, I know that something's kind of weird about that. How could that slip by? When I'm watching a piece and they're doing a piece in the middle of winter in Wisconsin and they cut to outside the location in Wisconsin where there's snow on the ground, but they show an image where there's people and palm trees in the background because it's really California and they're trying to have you pretend it's Wisconsin, I wonder, how does this get by? It doesn't just slip by. These things are intentional because those who are running the media think that those of you who are watching the news are not smart enough to figure it out. So they keep fooling you, and they keep fooling you. And the more that you allow yourself to get fooled, the more they're going to continue to fool you. So if you're one of those out there who prides yourself on how smart you are and you never get fooled, guess what? You've been fooled many, many, many times, and you're being fooled all the time. Each and every day you turn on that news and you buy into it, they're fooling you. The best thing you could do is to do some fact checking. Write down the stories they tell you, and then actually go and look up the information afterwards and see if the facts that they gave you add up. And you will find that they don't. And if you do this for a couple days in a row, just flip through the different news stations, fact check what they're saying, you will come to understand that they're not being honest with you. And if you realize that, maybe you'll stop believing everything they say. Because, again, that's another thing that amazes me. That people who are told that they're lying, being lied to by these shows, watch the very shows, and then they're so amazed when they hear it. Oh my gosh, did you hear what happened? Yeah, you just heard another lie and you just bought into it. That's what happened. So stop buying into the lies. Understand that the only way you're going to find the truth is you have to do your own investigations. Now, here's a story. First, we heard that there was the protest, and the protest led to the ambassador being killed, and then that story was wrong because then there wasn't a protest. Then it was a planned event that went, and they went and they did this, and then whoop, wasn't a planned event. It was just something that sort of happened all of a sudden at the spur of the moment. What will they come up with next? I don't know. But here's a story running off of Business Insider. Says how U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens may have been linked to jihadist rebels in Syria. Okay, so here we go. The details of the September 11th attack that killed the Americans, 4 Americans at the consulate in Benghazi, which doesn't exist, are still murky, and there's certainly more to be known. Former CIA officer Claire Lopez argues that the key issue is that the relationship of the U.S. government ambassador Chris Stevens and the U.S. diplomatic mission to Libya with Al-Qaeda. And remember, swipe Al-Qaeda for CIA. So his Christopher Stevens diplomatic mission with the CIA in Libya. The relationship, Lopez argues, could be concocted that the rise of Islamic brigades in Syria, who recently created a front to liberate Syria to wage jihad against the Syrian regime and turn the country into Islamic State. The potential connection starts with Ambassador Stevens, who worked during the Libyan Revolution, and ends with him hosted on the night of his death. On March 20th, Stevens became the official U.S. liaison to Al-Qaeda-linked Syrian opposition and began coordinating U.S. assistance to the rebels. The top military commanders of the rebels, Abdulhakim Bel-Jihad, was the leader of the pro-Al-Qaeda Libyan Islamic fighting group. After Gaddafi fell, the LIFG demanded that some of the fighters join the amorphous group Ansar al-Sharia, Soldiers of Sharia, which reportedly participated in the attack that took Stevens' life. Okay, you can go on and on and on. Again, if we look at some of these things here, liaison to the Al-Qaeda-linked Libyan CIA. So they're linking Stevens up with a Al-Qaeda-linked organization or CIA. So good chance that this Stevens was probably also somewhat involved with the Secret Service of some sort, CIA, some security firm. Look, the stories that come out of there, if you really believe them, I don't know what to tell you. You got to understand that you're being lied to, and when the news keeps telling you a different story every day, how are you going to get the truth? Now, here's one. This is a Congressman and Chairman of the House's Homeland Security Committee say that there is a terrorist threat now worse than before 9/11. Okay, what are they trying to scare us with now? The Washington Times notes, U.S. Representative Peter T. King, New York Republican and Chairman of the House's Homeland Security Committee, said Tuesday that Al-Qaeda, is now a greater threat than it was before the terrorist attacks of 2011. So wait a minute. Let's change this. Let's reread this. We take Al-Qaeda and we swipe it out for CIA, and that means that this statement said that the CIA is now a greater threat than it was before the terrorist attacks of September 11th. Well, let's look at what's going on with the CIA out there in the world. We hear about the infighting that's going on. We hear about some of these potential explosions that are happening in the underground bases, the infighting that's taking place between these organizations. But now the same organization, those who understand that they're connected with the Al-Qaeda, they're going to do some more threats. So it says if King is right, then it shows that American anti-terrorism policies since 9/11 have been a dismal failure. It says why? We're supporting terrorists. Initially, in the name of fighting our enemies, the U.S. has been directly supporting Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups for the last decade. Now, why would the United States, be supporting Al-Qaeda? Oh, that's right. Al-Qaeda is the CIA. No wonder they're supporting them, because in the United States supports the CIA. So of course they're going to be supporting them. When they change their name, they use another name. You see, folks, and there's a lot more to this article here. You see, the whole point is, it's a smokescreen. Shakespeare said, all the world indeed's a stage, and we are merely players. Well, there's a game going on. There's somebody's writing these scripts, and they're thinking that people are going to believe this. And you know why they keep doing these stories? Because people believe this. Hook, line, and sinker. The very people who so boldly proclaim that they won't get fooled again, get fooled each and every time. Okay. Now, moving right along. This is a piece about Big Brother. This comes to us from Mox News and RT. Check this out.
Okay, guys, I know I talk a lot about the surveillance state on the show, but I wouldn't if there wasn't a real attack going on against our constitutional rights to privacy and free speech. Right now, our right to privacy is going to the dogs, and the following news story is case in point.
He was a drug-sniffing superstar for Miami-Dade police, but it's a routine sniff from a marijuana grow house 5 years ago that could make this chocolate lab the subject of a constitutional question at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Well, there you have it. See, this month the U.S. Supreme Court will be visiting 2 Florida cases that test if law enforcement drug-sniffing dogs violate our Fourth Amendment right to privacy. The first case examines how accurate a drug dog must be to establish probable cause for search of a vehicle. Now, the story hasn't been making headlines, but the decision that we expect to hear from the court on October 31st will have a massive impact on our rights to privacy. Think about it. The Fourth Amendment protects U.S. citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. That is, unless law enforcement happens to trespass your reasonable expectation of privacy. But what does that mean? Reasonable expectation of privacy. Is it not reasonable to expect that the government won't track your every move through your smartphone, even if the device is turned off? Is it not reasonable to expect that our telephone conversations and private emails won't be monitored without a court-issued warrant? These are the larger implications of what the Supreme Court will be arguing. But check this out. The second case refers to whether or not police can take drug-sniffing dogs to the front porch of your home in search of illicit drugs. Yes, you heard me right. Soon, police might be able to legally bring drug dogs to your private residences in order to authorize searches of your personal property. So, what happens if the Supreme Court rules in favor of this completely egregious violation of your rights? Would that not open the doors for police to set up drug-sniffing stations pretty much anywhere and everywhere? I mean, what reasonable expectations of privacy would we have outside our homes, like at the supermarket, shopping mall, or movie theater? Where does this end? But dog training is expensive, so high-tech scanning devices would probably eventually take their place. And that's a slippery slope, because it won't be long before law enforcement routinely scans our homes or our bodies. The Supreme Court, through the history of this country, has respected the ancient adage that a man's house is his castle, to the point that the poorest man may in his cottage bid defiance to all forces of the crown. Well, in this case, the crown is replaced with the ever more expanding and intrusive surveillance state. Think about that disturbing thought for just a moment. If you have something as small as a gram of marijuana in your home, it could give cops the justification they need to invade your space, search your home, and seize your property. This is a question of privacy, folks, and how much we're willing to sit back and let our rights be squashed by the state.
All right. So, you know, this isn't wishful thinking, but I just have a bad feeling that there's going to come a bad day for police officers in this country. Because police officers, unfortunately, are taking the wrong side. They're taking orders from those who aren't giving constitutional orders, and they're following them blindly. I can't tell you how many officers I spoke to when I was out on this road trip I took, who are just taking orders. And I'd ask some of them, what if you got an unconstitutional order? And one guy said, we wouldn't. And they walked off. Well, they are. And they're following them blindly. These officers are out there. They're not wearing, American flags on their uniform anymore because they're not showing allegiance to this country. And there is going to come one day in this country, and it's going to unfortunately be an ugly day for police officers because they're going to have to make the decision. What are they going to do? But my guess is when the shit hits the fan, police officers are going to put their tails between their legs and going to run home to their families to protect them, and they're not going to give a care about protecting anyone other than themselves, which would be expected. So if that's the case, why are they being so brazen right now and going and violating the rights of American citizens when push comes to shove, they're going to be at their own homes making sure that their rights aren't being violated by the very other agents in their office who are telling them to go violate rights? It's not a good thing, folks. We need to stand up. And the police in this country, I'm speaking to you if you're listening out there, please pay attention to your oath. You swore an oath to protect and defend the people of this country, not to take unconstitutional orders, not to hurt the people. And I'm tired of watching videos, watching you police officers hurting good Americans. You need to understand whose side you're on because there's way more Americans. They outnumber you. And one day things are going to get bad enough in this country and you're going to have to decide which side you're on. If you think you're going to beat on the American people and then later try to be on their side when things get bad, guess again. You're not going to be wanted. And you're also not going to be wanted by the individuals who you're protecting now because they're criminals, which means you're going to be stuck in the middle. And many of you are going to be stuck in the middle without jobs and without anything. And you're really going to wonder why this happened. It's because you lost control of your common sense and you started taking orders to go and turn guns on American citizens. You need to stop that. You need to pay more attention. Because if you don't, it can get very bad for you. And I hope that that day doesn't come. But the way that you're going and the directions and what you're putting out isn't good. Oathkeepers.org. Go there. Read what that's all about. Understand your oaths. Take care of this country and quit defending the criminals. Please. The people of America would absolutely love it if you stop protecting the criminals. Now, here's something that Homeland Security graduate first corps of Obama's brown shirts. Remember Hitler had the brown shirts? We've got them now. When did this happen? It's happened while Americans have been sleeping. So here we go. October 7th, Vicksburg. The federal government calls them FEMA Corps. But they conjure up memories of Hitler Youth of 1930s Germany. Regardless of their name, the Department of Homeland Security has just graduated its first class of 231 Homeland Youth, kids aged 18 to 24, and recruited from the President's AmeriCorps volunteers. They represent the first wave of Department of Homeland Security Youth Corps, designed specifically to create a full-time, paid, standing army of FEMA youth across this country. On September 13, 2012, the Department of Homeland Security graduated its first class. While having the idea of a volunteer force of tens of thousands, volunteers scattered across the country in aid of times of natural disaster sounds great. The details and timing of this new government army is somewhat curious, if not disturbing. DHS is raising an armed army. The first problem one finds with this new army is the fact that they are mere children. Yes, 18 is generally the legal age a person can sign a contract, join the military, be tried as an adult. But ask any parent, an 18, 20, even 20-year-old is still a naive, readily influenced kid. The second problem with this announcement and program is its timing. Over the past 2 years, President Obama has signed a number of executive orders suspending all civilian and civil and constitutional rights and turning over management of an American under martial law to FEMA. Also in the time, domestic federal agencies under DHS, including FEMA, have ordered billions of rounds of ammunition as well as the corresponding firearms. Admittedly, these new weapons and ammunition aren't being used in some far-off war to fight forest fires in California, but right here in the streets of America. Well, on and on and on the article goes. Hey, I've met a lot of 18 to 24-year-olds, and I'm not impressed because the young kids these days don't seem to have a clue about what's going on in the world. Ask them some of the details about who was Thomas Jefferson. Some of them don't even know. Some of them don't even know about 9/11. Some of them don't even know their ass from a hole in the ground. Yet they're out there in this FEMA corpse. And what are they going to do? Eventually arm these young kids who don't understand the Constitution? It's getting bad. It's getting bad. These stories keep popping up all the time. All the time. So what's going to happen when you have one of these young punks show up at your house to try to impose some sort of regulation that they are there to impose for the Department of Homeland Security? What's going to happen? It's not going to be good, because here you have guys that are being trained, and they aren't being trained to protect the American citizens. They aren't taking those kind of oaths. It's a different situation, because we see what the Department of Homeland Security is doing, and they're not out there actively protecting the American people in the way they say. They're involved in the war and terrorism against the American people just as much as the administration. And all you have to do to know what I'm saying is true is go back and read through all of these stories. There's been months and months and months worth of stories to confirm everything I'm saying. All right, moving right along. It's a story here. This is Obama. 50 crazy things Obama supporters are threatening to do if Romney wins. So again, this is what comes from bad leadership. Bad leadership spawns people following the leadership to do bad, stupid things. So some of them are saying, if Romney wins, I will cry in a fetal position every day. If Romney wins, I'm moving to La Jolla. Let's see. If Obama don't win, I'm walking around playing Tupac with my 38 in my hip everywhere I go. If Romney wins, I'm dropping out of selling drugs. If Romney wins, I'm going to start backing robbing white folks. If Romney actually wins, I'm starting a riot. What is all of this nonsense? Who is saying all of this? These are his followers? And are these his followers that are his followers simply because of the color of his skin? And are these comments coming from this? Is that what this is about? Is this turning into a race war? You got the black candidate and the white candidate, and so now we're dividing. Is that what's going on? I certainly hope the American people are smart enough to look past this issue, because hasn't racism been dealt with for long enough that we're kind of past that? Aren't we past it? Shouldn't we get past this nonsense? The media keeps wanting to poke the bear, keep poking the racism issue. But then these things come up like this, and this is the comments? It's not right. It's not right. And Americans that are falling into this, shame on you. Shame on you for falling into this and for being fooled. Go look in the mirror and give yourself a good hard look and figure out what's going on, because you got some problems and some things you need to straighten out if you're listening to all of this nonsense and you're getting caught up in all of the BS that they're doing. All right? Take a good look, hard look at yourself and figure it out, because this is a good time where your conscience has an opportunity with all of what's available in life. Just don't buy into the nonsense. If you do, they win, you lose. All right. Now, I'm only going to play just a couple minutes of this piece here because time's moving on. You heard about the earthquake in Maine the other day. Well, this is a 20-minute piece, and it's a really good research piece on what potentially happened, and something interesting, that what happened in Maine was affected by what happened in Indonesia. Check it out.
It is October 17, 2012. It is early in the morning and I am tired. But this information is important enough for me to put out immediately, and that's what I'm going to do. So yesterday on the 16th, there was an event that took place that took a lot of people by surprise. There was a moderate earthquake in Maine, 4.5, eventually downgraded to a 4.0. And this area of the world is not known for earthquakes, but it happened, and it shook up a lot of people in this general area that's not used to experiencing earthquakes. So, very odd, but is this connected to anything? Yes, it is, and I'm going to prove that to you. So today, when this earthquake happened, I went, hold on. This has happened before. I remembered another Maine earthquake that happened back in April, and it was also the same size. So what happened was, when I saw this earthquake and I saw 4.5, it triggered something around. I said, hey, I remember this happening before. And I said, wait, I remember adjustments that took place before, and those adjustments are taking place now too in a different way, in the same area. And it all just popped in my mind, and all the information fit, and I'm going to share that now. So, let's get into the main earthquakes. So I gave a thread of it being documented on April 12th. And I also gave the stats here, 2012, April 12, 2:29 UT time, 4.5. After some homework, I did find a screenshot of this earthquake, which I documented here. And you can see here it was off the coast of Maine. You can see right here, April 12th, 2012, 2:29, magnitude 4.5. Now, USGS eventually wiped this earthquake off their records, though. However, if you do a search for Maine earthquake on April 12th, you will find it. So, basically, same area of Maine, basically same magnitude. Has happened twice this year already. Very weird. So let's see how this is connected to everything that's been going on recently. Now, what happened within a 24-hour period of both of these main earthquakes? Massive adjustment by Indonesia completed right beforehand. On April 11th, there was back-to-back 8+ earthquakes by Indonesia and Sumatra. There's also 13 buoys in event mode. And for the record, 2 8+ quakes within a 24-hour period has never happened before in recorded history until April 11th. So it very well was a significant event, which will be further expanded upon later on in this video. So,
okay, so that's where I'm going to leave it, but watch this video. I'm talking about the adjustment in Indonesia, Sumatra, and how that affected what went on in Maine. So, 20-minute video, worth your time to watch it. A lot of really good information in there. All right, couple quick things here. This one, something to think about over the weekend. A lot of people are preparing, saying they got to survive. They got to survive. But the question is, survive what? So just ask, one of the most important questions survivalists can ask themselves is, why are you trying to survive? With the news being what it is, the world has now come to the point which a huge shakeup is undeniable to anyone who has 2 cents worth of brain matter between their ears. So hordes are joining the stampede to become survivalists. The movement has even spurred the development of the survival industry, with commercials now being played on mainstream media stations for free-dried storage food and solar generators. They're an old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will do. So if you're going to go the path to be a survivalist, first you want to know where you are going and why. So, question is, why do you want to survive? If things are going to get so bad, is it worth surviving? Think about that question. I can't answer it for you. Think about that over the course of the weekend, where you're at. And think about, sometimes people are given ideas that create fear. Maybe there's nothing to survive about. Maybe there's no problems at all and everything's going to be okay and there's just a lot of worry in the air needlessly. Or maybe there's something that's going on that's very important. I don't know. You need to really take a look at it for yourself and see what you feel inside, because our intuition is the thing that's going to guide us to where we need to be. I know that, the first question, though, why are you trying to survive, is an important one, and contemplate that over the course of this weekend. And there you go. Moving right along. This here is called The Sound of Saturn's Rings. Rub physicists explain nonlinear dust. Dusty plasmas can be found in many places, both in space and in the laboratory, due to their special properties. Dust acoustic waves can propagate inside these plasmas like sound waves in the air, and can be studied with the naked eye or with the standard video cameras. The rub, physicist Professor Dr. H.C. Pandma Eliason from the Faculty of Physics and Astronomy have published a model in which they describe how large amplitude dust acoustic waves in dusty plasmas behave. The researchers report their new findings in the journal Physical Review E. It says different acoustic phenomena in dusty plasmas. They're composed of electrons, positive ions, neutral atoms, and dust grains that are negatively or positively charged. Only in plasmas containing electrically charged dust grains, dust sound waves emerge, the so-called dust acoustic waves. These waves are supported by the inertia of the massive charged dust particles. The restoring force causes the particles to oscillate and the waves to propagate. Comes from the pressure of hot electrons and ions. So, pretty interesting article dealing with this idea. Anyway, I thought I'd bring that up. Space related and something to check out. One other thing over the course of the weekend you might want to check out on my Facebook page there. There is a posting for a link for a Scooby-Doo episode. That's right, Scooby-Doo, because in a recent Scooby-Doo episode, they talk about Planet X. So the link there is to the episode where they are talking about Planet X. And it's pretty fascinating because in many ways, as you know, the subject of Planet X is a taboo subject. But yet there it is in the cartoons. So why are they introducing that in Scooby-Doo? Why are they having such a heavy subject out there for the kids to understand? Is it to get them used to the idea so that if they look up one day and they see another planet out there, they're not to be afraid? Or is it just to put it in a cartoon so you can dismiss it as it being a joke and not real? I don't know. Either way, it's in the video. Watch it. Check it out. I can't play it on here because if I do, they'll give me a copyright ding and, I won't be back. Yada, yada, yada. Gotta abide by some sort of rules here at YouTube, right? Okay. All we got left is our meditation, so what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and relax. Close your eyes and relax. Alright, as we're heading on into the weekend, we've had a lot of information this week. So let's imagine first and foremost that we are like a sponge. You're like a sponge and you're able to absorb all of the information that gets sent to you. But even better, inside of this sponge is a system in place that takes the information that is not truthful or invalid and spits it back out. So the only thing that gets absorbed is the information that is truthful. And the beautiful thing about this inner guidance that determines what is right and wrong is that it uses your intuition to be able to help you to differentiate between the information. So as this information goes in and is filtered out, the good goes in, the bad goes out, we begin to understand that all we have to do is apply this process in life, and we can find out truthfulness about things and separate the lies. And in contemplating this, it reminds us of the Holy Spirit and the gift of discernment that we've all been given by the Holy Spirit. And then when we utilize this gift, we're able to discern right from wrong, good from bad. It's only when we separate ourselves from the gifts of spirit, when we separate ourselves from common sense, that we start accepting the lies as truths. We start accepting and believing the liars as the heroes, and the criminals as the ones to be adored. But with our sense of discernment intact, we realize that the criminals need to be in jail, the liars need to be ignored, and the bad information needs to be weeded out, thrown away. And as we understand and think about the information in the world, we realize that is each and every one of our responsibilities to make sure that the world is being filled with the positive information that is going to make a change. We understand that our kids, the youth of this planet, will only progress according to the information they are provided. And if we are content with the criminals and the liars providing the information to the youth of this planet, then we can't complain when the youth grow up to be liars and criminals themselves. So let's encourage our discernment so that we encourage truthfulness and honesty. Let's imagine that each and every one of us is using our sense of discernment, that the information comes in, and just imagine the bad information that is lies and dishonest information gets sent out, and see this as like a little black dot just being pushed out. Imagine that black dot is joining with all the other black dots of lies and misinformation that everyone else is letting go of. And now just imagine sending light towards that information and just dissipating it, dissipating the lies. It's that easy. And as you dissipate the lies before your eyes, you realize how easy it actually is. And the only thing that stops it is fear. So having now dissipated the lies and the dishonest thoughts, as we walk in truth, fear dissipates, and we are surrounded by love. And as we walk in the path of love, our energy attracts love, truth, and positivity. And we attract these things and we share with others, and the world becomes filled with love, truth, and positivity. Let's just hold this thought in our hearts for this weekend of filling the world with love, truth, and positivity. And yes, it is that simple. Let's make sure all our chakras are open. Red at the bottom of the spine, orange above that at the belly button, yellow just below the rib cage, green at the heart, blue at the throat, violet at the third eye, indigo at the crown chakra, and finally connected bright white light above. Honor your connection to all that is, was, and ever shall be. And just focus on love, truth, and positivity. And as you do, bring your energy and attention back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. There you have it. That's the end of our show for today. As a matter of fact, that's the end of our week. Go have a great weekend. I hope it's great weather wherever you are so you can get out and about. Have some fun. And just remember, love, truth, and positivity. That's what we need to get us through. And if we just keep doing that, it's all going to be all right. I'll be back next week with more news and information. Have a great weekend. I will talk to you soon. Peace. I'm out of here.